What else do I have to do? Video's on. Audio's on. Lights on. Yours. Mine.
I think we're good to go.
Your rectum.
That old garage band effort. No bueno. Don't do that anymore.
Mm-mm.
And we're back.
Because this is the backup.
Yeah.
Huh? This audio here is the backup to that.
It's only been 2 weeks. Yes.
Fuck. Okay, you kick us off.
All right. You ready?
Go.
So, we're back from the whirlwind trip to Paris.
2-week hiatus.
Yes.
How was it for you, bro?
Man, it was brilliant. Absolutely loved it. Yeah, man, I tell you what, after having not traveled for 3 years, it was just so exciting. It was so lucky to be back on an airplane, walking through international, landing in Paris. Just everything about it. The travel bug was real. I really, really missed it. Loved every second of it. And I'd actually forgotten how quickly you can become travel unfit.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
It is.
Yeah.
So you say it's been 3 years for you.
Yeah. At least 3 years. I went overseas last in 2019. So, yeah, this was by far the longest period of time since I'd even been on an airplane, so to speak. So,
yeah. No, it was an awesome trip and certainly enjoyed by all and successful. We'll chat about it a bit later, I suppose. We'll make it the story of our week.
Yeah.
But let's jump into some local things. Cemair in the news in a real positive way. So they've been granted 7 weekly frequencies on Joburg Livingston and 4 on Joburg Lilongwe. They also got 3 frequencies a week between Joburg and Accra, Nairobi, Pointe-Noire, Brazzaville, Libreville, and Entebbe.
There's a lot of ex-SAA routes, aren't they?
They are. And License Council as well, they granted Cemair 2 frequencies a week on Joburg Kinshasa and Joburg Lubumbashi. I think those were SA Express routes. And 1 between Joburg and Freetown. So Miles says outcome for a few of the routes applied for are still pending. Those include Joburg to Dar es Salaam, Joburg to Vic Falls, and Joburg Harare. Van der Molen told Travel News that the airline would acquire more aircraft to cope with the need for the increased capacity. So they committed to 6 90-seat CRJ 900s. And in addition, they're also going to add to their domestic ops. So you could see increase on Joburg Cape Town, and they're soon going to start flights Joburg East London.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's pretty good.
Promising. Yeah, it's a good expansion for them, and it's growing at quite a rapid rate.
It's a nice one to start off the news week, I think, though.
Yeah, look, there's no better way to start it off than with some positive news.
Watching Cemair's growth has been just a thing on its own, just to actually watch. I mean, if you go back to, let's forget about their grounding way back, which was unlawful anyway. But if you look at, when things started up again at the beginning of the pandemic, we started to hear a lot of our ex-colleagues and friends joining the airline. And at that stage, a very small operation still. But you look at them today, and they are massive. I mean, they can't employ fast enough. They're getting in some really good areas in that regional size of aircraft. I'll chat a little bit about that later on because it's quite interesting what's happening in sort of the regional aircraft market around the world. But been really cool to watch them grow, and they're a real force to be reckoned with here in South Africa and I suppose regionally around Africa now as well.
Yeah. No, it's great, man. And it's something that I picked up, well, I mean, certainly from being able to travel a bit over the last week. The aviation recovery is real, man. It's recovered. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
There's such a demand for travel that, it's awesome to see how well it's benefiting our local airlines. And Cemair, FlySafair, all of them
Doing a great job.
really, really well. So it's cool.
Speaking of positive stuff, SAA, they're eyeing further growth with the addition of more 320s. They're going to increase their total to 10 aircraft, and that'll be 5 320s in total. So their chief commercial officer, Tebogo Tsamani, said SAA is replacing its 340-300 with a similar capacity aircraft and will exit the 319 fleet in 223. So they're getting rid of that dinosaur 340-300. I assume it's going to be another 330 that they're going to get on there. And then obviously a few news articles this week about them pouring on more capacity. So they are getting in some more aircraft, and they obviously see that if they don't start doing something very, very soon, the likes of the Cemairs and, of course, Airlink, I mean, they're already so far ahead. I mean, it's almost going to be impossible to catch up. So they're seeing it like, well, they can't wait for this strategic partner to sort everything out. They're going to have to sort things out now. Otherwise, there's not going to be a market share there.
No, they don't stand a chance. They don't stand a chance. I mean, the rest of the world is picking up pace at such a rate that, they got a long way to go to catch up.
They do. I picked up on a John Lamola, so the executive chairman there, says they're on course to deliver a commercially sustainable and world-class air passenger and cargo service in South Africa. That is a bit optimistic, I'd say, for now. SAA, as the national flag carrier and an entity wholly owned by the people of South Africa, has a responsibility to secure the sustainability of the airline industry in South Africa as an enabler of economic development and facilitator of affordable air travel to all users of air transportation in the country. Well, I think they made their bed when they got rid of all their staff on that one. So I don't think, and I'm happy to put my neck on a block with that one, that they are certainly not an enabler of economic development in this country. And your and my lack of salaries is testament to that. So that's a bullshit statement.
Exactly. While you were reading that statement, it was just going through
I
my
could
head.
see you shifting in your chair a little bit there, like...
oh, fuck, it's just more of the same bullshit. So...
But yeah, that actually pissed me off when I read that, because that is look, despite, I know it was a different exco and all the rest, but same airline, and they got rid of a lot of staff, and a lot of people from poor backgrounds lost their jobs there. So no, economic enabler.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get to another one. This Madagascar story. Did you follow this whole thing with Madagascar? At the time, I don't know how I missed this, but obviously they've extended the embargo on Airlink over SA's gold bullion intercept. So these guys, they got into Fireblade, assuming a private aircraft, but they were carrying 73.5 kilos of gold, and these Malagasy couriers got intercepted. And that was it. So the gold is still here in South Africa, and they want their gold back. So until such time as that happens, no flights to Madagascar. But reading it, I thought, okay, well, not such a big deal. It was amongst Airlink's 5 most profitable routes.
Yeah, I can believe it, because I mean, it wasn't very well serviced by
anyone
their
else.
Own local airline.
No.
So it must be hurting them a bit, because I mean, surely they get a lot of their tourists and that through Johannesburg as a hub.
I would think so.
So can't be doing them any good. It must be cutting off. It's cutting their nose off to spite their face, I'm sure.
Yeah. So keep an eye on this one, but it seems it's not going to be sorted out soon. So an insider said not going to happen soon. That story, it was way back. I'll be lying if I that day
goes back more than a year.
Yeah, it's a while ago.
Yeah. Just
a question there. Maybe one of our guys can answer this. How Safair, they flying to Mauritius?
Yes.
What do they use as an alternate?
Maputo or Reunion.
But wouldn't you need ETOPS on an 800 to go to Mauritius, and wouldn't Madagascar be one of those airports? I'm just thinking out the
out
box.
loud.
I don't know. I really don't
Yeah.
know. But the reason I say our Cemair guys might get hold of us is because, and I have to apologize for this, on our last episode, we were speaking about Lyft getting on the Cape Town Durbs route.
Yeah.
And I said at the time, I don't know it was you or me, said, as far as I know, only Cemair is doing that route. Absolutely not. Cemair are doing that route.
Are they?
I think about 50 Cemair captains contacted me to
is
say, listen, but we've got high frequency on that route. So I do apologize there. So I know the Cemair guys would shut up. But it was just something I was thinking about today because we had an exercise in the simulator. And then I read the article and I'd be interested to know how that actually works.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I used to fly that route often in a Hawker, which is a lot smaller than a 737-800. We didn't worry about E-tops, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Proper Part 91 operation, maybe. Yeah, anyway, I might just be shooting at stars there, but just interesting to find out. On your next trip overseas next year, because hopefully we go again, you're going to have to get yourself a travel pass, bro.
Yo, what cuck is this, eh?
Hey?
SARS at it again.
Yeah.
Just another hurdle in the, list of hurdles that you really got to jump through just to go and travel. I mean, it is quite a hack this time. The whole visa application process, this, that, and next thing.
Yeah, well, you haven't applied for a visa in a long time, so, doing it again, a bit of a story.
Yeah.
But now, the South African Revenue Service has announced the introduction of an online traveller declaration system to take effect. First at OR Tambo during November, a couple of weeks' time. And then to be rolled out to all international airports during the first quarter of 2023. SARS says it is to simplify passenger movement at South African airports by adding another step in the process.
Yeah.
Rather just call it like it is.
Yeah, you're worried
Obviously,
about
shit
all the
scared
money
of the money
that's
leaving the country.
Yeah.
Don't make up a story. What's a passport for?
Exactly.
Your passport gets stamped going out and stamped coming in. That system has worked forever.
Yeah.
Hey? Now, SARS are going to help. They're going to simplify the process by having another online step that you've got to go. You know what's going to happen. It's one of these things you're only going to be able to do it a few days before. You're going to go onto the system. It's going to be, it's probably going to crash initially. And then you're going to rock up at the airport. No, where's your online? You can't go. Well,
you know what I find funny? SARS and simplifying in the same sentence.
Yeah.
That goes together like military intelligence.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if it's anything like the e-filing websites, I mean.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, smoke and mirrors. But yeah, quite right. I think they're so shit scared about all the czar that's leaving the shores of South Africa that now they're going to try and control it.
Like I said, call it like it is. They'd have more respect for implementing the new system if that was the case.
True,
I originally thought maybe it was to do with when you bring back foreign currency into the country, don't you have a certain amount of time where you're supposed to turn it back into...
Yeah, it's supposed to be
ZAR.
within 90 days.
And everyone does that, of course. But so the new system requires all travelers, including South African citizens and residents, children and infants leaving or entering South Africa by air to complete and submit an online travel declaration as well as receive a traveller pass before they travel. The new traveller declaration process is an online system that collects travel information and returns a traveller pass via email. So you know what's going to happen. You're going to do the whole thing, click submit, and you're going to be waiting for the email.
It's not going to... And the website's probably going to like freeze halfway
It's going to freeze, and it's
then,
going to have a drop-down list, and your option's not in the drop-down list.
Then there's going to be like a contact support.
And
there's going to be a number to phone.
Exactly.
Don't even get me started on emulating that phone call.
Yeah. Wayne
Duvanacher
Duvanacher from Outer says, why was there no consultation on this? I think they had a meeting about this. It could have been last night even. And they were asking people to join in on this meeting. And, because there was just gets implemented, and there was no engagement with the industry at all.
Another well thought through and implemented process by the geniuses in charge.
Yeah. Should we leave the South African news there?
Let's
Look, it started off positive with Cemair. Let's not forget that. It really is positive news that they've got this massive growth. I mean, nearly every second pilot I bump into now, that didn't have a job. I say, what are you doing? No, they've just got into Cemair, and a lot of the guys are seeing it as a real opportunity. You must remember, look, there's a lot of ex-SACs and, I suppose Cemair guys, Mango, SA, great, that they've got themselves a job back. That's awesome because there were so many unemployed guys. But let's just go one step further. What about all the people out there that, you're talking, 500 to 2,000 hour guys that didn't have the option of going into an airline, certainly not even 3-4 years ago. There were no option for these guys. Now there is, and there's the youngsters getting into that airline, and they joining and seeing it as a real opportunity. So that's a real positive thing because they're going to be flying with really experienced guys. They're getting a very good initiation into some hard, tough flying. Let's face it, they don't fly 30 hours a month. Those guys are flying flipping hard. And if you want to build up your hours and you want to get some good experience flying with some well-trained pilots, then, hey, man, what an opportunity.
Yeah, it's a good career starter. And it goes so far as to say it's a good jump start in a way where you don't have to necessarily finish your comm and go and mess around in the bush on a 206 to get 1,000 hours to then get accepted into an airline.
Exactly.
That sort of thing. It jump starts things. And, like you say, they do a fair amount of hours in a short space of time. So it's good for the logbook.
It is.
So, it is pretty positive. On another positive note, I must say I was pretty impressed on our return on Saturday. I was expecting to walk into a customs hall and just be like, stuck there for hours and hours and hours on end. Because there was a lot of stories and images going through social media just before we left that this is what you can expect when you arrive back in Joburg. But that wasn't the case.
No, hats off to anyone that was working customs and immigration and baggage handling at OR Tambo last Saturday morning. Because as Ryan says, from getting off the aeroplane to walking into the arrivals hall with our bags, I don't think it was more than 30 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't. And I was pleasantly surprised. I'll tell you what. I mean, I really had geared myself up for a long wait. I suppose someone got the message and some people are starting to do their jobs.
Yeah,
so,
it was really cool. What I did have a chuckle at on the far left, so when you got all South African passports on the left and then the right is into other passports.
Yeah.
On the very far left, remember the one we used to go down as crew?
Yes.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
That one is like a premier passport line.
Yeah.
But it was so weird because there was one person working there and the rest was full. So it was just like I just had a chuckle at some people because they'd obviously come off and business or first, and they were hell-bent if they were going to stand in the normal queue, even though it was 10 times faster. They were waiting in this premier queue.
You know what was cool was the line for the South African passport holders was a lot shorter than all the international passport holders, which was a good indicator of how many tourists and foreigners are actually coming into SA. Yeah. So I noticed that and I still thought, shit, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's really good for us.
Yeah. So, good call there, Ryan. Definitely. Hats off to them. International news.
Yeah, quite a bit of that.
Can we start off with something, maybe a bit of a contentious subject, but something I want to bring up? So Ethiopian, they suffered a tail strike while landing at Lubumbashi in a 787 the other day. So on the 6th of October, Ethiopian 787 suffered a tail strike landing at Lubumbashi. That was after a go-round. So on the second landing from Lilongwe to Lubumbashi, got a tail strike. The aircraft stuck on the ground for 24 hours, and then they did a non-revenue flight back to Addis. Shit happens, okay? They did have the pilot falling asleep the other day, or crew falling asleep the other day. I don't know if it's come out that that's exactly what happened, but it's, I think, pretty widely
That was
accepted.
on that cargo flight from Khartoum back to Addis.
Correct.
Yeah, I remember
so
that.
they did the full RNAV, and then autopilot disengaged, and that noise seemed to wake them up. Well, they had another incident the other day, 767 freighter. got intercepted actually after losing ATC comms. So Ethiopian Airlines 767 lost communication with air traffic control while over the Balkan states. So they actually scrambled a few jets to go out and see what the hell was going on. The airline has not made any official statements regarding this incident. Now, over the past few years, Ethiopian have garnered a huge amount of praise. Deservedly so. I mean, they've grown as an airline quite remarkably. They, without question, the leading airline in Africa in terms of options on where to go. But man, oh man, are you going to connect through Addis? I mean, with the options there, I'm not. I'll call it like it is. How many incidents have these oaks had lately? They had the oak falling asleep. This one now. This one. There's 3 in a row. And smoke and fire, what is it? They normally go, this. Let's call it the way it is. Around the world, a lot of pilots, very, very tired. You want to have a look, and could it be something that's worth looking into? We don't know. But at the end of the day, there have been 3 incidents with the same airline, very, very short succession. Yep, they're probably the best airline in Africa.
Yeah.
But
looking at it objectively, if I'm going to find a thread here or find a common denominator, it seems to be the freight dogs that are getting hammered. Yeah,
it is.
There's not many issues on the passenger.
No, but when you read it, it's still Ethiopian and it's still the same everything, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose there's no arguing that.
You reading any things about Emirates cargo flights lately?
No, not at all. But no, it's true. I mean, it's a lot of there's a lot of concerning issues in a short space of time, and it should.
But
raise
who are
awareness.
we to question it? But
we're just commentating. That's what we say.
But if my little one and my wife has to fly overseas on an airline, probably stick to one of the others at this stage. Until the guys get enough rest, that is, and then we'll consider flying with them again.
Yeah.
Virgin, they're not flying to Hong Kong anymore.
Not?
No. They cited the closure of Russian airspace as part of the reason for the suspension. In other news, China has been locked down again. Certain parts of China is locked down again.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't get it. I mean, the rest of the world has forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, these guys, there's something more to it behind the scenes. There must be some form of control or something that they benefit from locking things down.
I don't know. It's weird, man.
And I think Virgin not flying to Hong Kong's got bugger all to do with Russian
I think
airspace.
it's got bugger all to do with Russian airspace as well, but it's certainly a good one to blame it on. I think when they saw the certain parts of China locked down again, then that was done.
Yeah.
So last Monday, 427 new symptomatic cases were reported in more than 20 of the country's provinces. Fucking hell. Yeah. Leave it.
Yeah.
Amsterdam, Schiphol, they're still having shit there.
Yeah.
South African flight was affected the other day. So not a South African Airways flight, but a KLM flight from Joburg to Amsterdam got cancelled, I think 2 days in a row, if I stand. No, the 14th of October and Sunday the 16th of October. They were cancelled. So frustrated travellers took to social media to vent about long lines, crowds, delays, and cancelled flights.
Yeah, well, look, it's going to happen. So just get used to it.
It is. I like what Emirates President Tim Clark had to say, though. He said that the Heathrow CEO should resign because of those caps that they put on amounts of passengers to go through the airport. They still haven't let this one go because they're saying everyone else got off their asses and did what they had to do to ramp up operations as predicted. They predicted it and they were ready for it, but the airports didn't. And Amsterdam, such an organized place, such a main hub, you would have think they would have done it, and Heathrow as well. How Heathrow, probably the world hub, is it not?
Yeah.
Couldn't sort things out. So they cited a lack of investment as a factor in the understaffing. So Tim Clark says that they are understaffed, but maybe there's a lack of investment in the whole airport and structure and everything else. So maybe that is to blame.
Perhaps. Or maybe it's just like he says, the CEO wasn't paying attention and got caught with his pants down. So
Having a party at Boris's house, probably. Jeez. You know what's on the rise lately, which is not a good thing at all? Bomb threats.
Yeah.
In aeroplanes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No surprise the other day. Aeroflot 777 made an emergency landing at Delhi following a suspected bomb threat. So they've been on the rise. I think there's been 3 of them. There was another one the other day, a Jet 2 Airbus 321 Dalaman Airport to Manchester. They were escorted by the Royal Air Force, diverted to London Stansted. And then there was a Malaysian Airlines MH173 delayed at Delhi after a fight between passengers on board gave rise to a false bomb threat. And on October the 1st, there was an email out about a bomb threat on an Indigo flight operating from Mumbai. So they're coming thick and fast. But don't you think there's going to be a lot more bomb threats on the Aeroflot flights in particular?
Yeah, exactly. I mean everybody's obviously on high alert and a bit more sensitive to what's going on there. Especially now that there was noise that the Russians are going to start picking fights with Israel as well.
Yeah.
So, can you imagine?
It's going to keep happening.
Yeah, it is. But, people are going a bit dilly. I don't know if you saw that site there, but it was a Turkish Airlines flight that was diverted the other day as well because an off-duty pilot who was paxing lost his marbles and bit the cabin crew member.
Geez, yeah.
Apparently alcohol wasn't involved, but...
really? You get a bit bitey when you've had a couple of drinks, though. Fortunately, not on other humans. But
or on airplanes.
Yeah. Our much beloved CRJ 200s and Embraer 145s around the world, that 50-seat category. We've flown a bit of them. They're certainly popular here in South Africa. But you might not be seeing them for so long, particularly in the likes of the States. That 50-seat category, no replacement for those aircraft, eh?
Yeah.
What you going to replace an Embraer 145 with? Or a CRJ 200? Nothing.
Yeah, well, looking at the demand for air travel now, it's kind of like, pointless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the demand is there for bigger airplanes. 800s, A320s.
But remember in the States, you've got the scope clause that certain operators, particularly these like American Eagle and that do the regional stuff, you can't go any bigger. But there is an agreement now where they can go to the 70-seaters. So it says here, what remains is a 50-seat jet fleet destined to sunset without replacement, passing the baton of traveller animosity to the 70-seat jets, the smallest aircraft of the future.
Yeah.
So the small jets are going to be the 70-seaters, not the 50s, simply not going to be replaced. Of course, that doesn't mean they're not going to fly anymore, just means they ain't going to be replaced.
Yeah.
But the reason is the interesting one, and it's pretty obvious. The value of pilots these days is high. Mm-hmm. So if you want to get the best bang for your buck out of the pilots, you're going to stick as many passengers in that aircraft as you possibly can. So putting them in a 50-seater aircraft just doesn't make sense because there are simply not enough crew.
Yeah, exactly.
The lack of pilots has given rise to this fact.
I think there's more to it as well because I was actually chatting to a chap while we were in France last week as well. And they were saying, regional connectivity in France at the moment is quite scarce because the French government have put in place limitations on airlines with the amount of carbon emissions that they're allowed to disperse. In other words, if you used to have like a frequency, say, between Charles de Gaulle and Brest of 6 to 8 flights a day, that's been limited down to 2 or 3. Forcing people to rather try and use trains before buying a plane ticket.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that doesn't have something to do with it as well. There are all these tree huggers out there.
Yeah.
Something sinister in the background.
Possibly.
I don't know enough about it, but that's where it's all going.
We'll get to, maybe we'll chat about that a bit more now because I want to chat about, obviously, our trip. I'm sure some of our listeners are interested in that. There's something that came up there that I certainly noticed a certain factor on that trip. But, news-wise, nice to see so much positivity, particularly here in South Africa. Let's get to that trip anyway, Ryan, because it was a really cool thing to do. I went up a little bit earlier, met you in Paris, and got to tour around a bit, be a bit of a tourist. But you've just brought up a topic now. It was something that I wanted to mention. I mean, in South Africa, we make quite a big deal of the fact that we don't have a public transport system. Doesn't exist. You got the train from OR to Sandton, but unless you going directly to those places, it's kind of useless for anyone else that wants to hop off, somewhere off the line. You've still got to have a car at the other end. It's a bit of a nightmare. So you look at Europe and, of course, they got the bus system and the train system and all the rest. And the train system, when it's working, works really well. The last 3 times my dad and I have arrived in France, and we thought, okay, now let's, save a few of our ZAR here and then go catch the train into Paris. The train doesn't work on the weekends.
Oh, really?
Well, the last 3 times is, I don't know if it was a strike or they're working on the line or whatever.
Yeah.
Just hasn't worked. No problem. You can go catch the bus. So you literally walk an hour to the train station. Then you double back. You go to the bus. Not particularly well laid out. So you don't quite know, am I getting on the right bus? The bus drops you off at Stade Francais station, where the Springboks won the 2007 World Cup, beat England there. How's it, John? And then and then you catch the train from Stade Francais into one of the Paris stations, so you get off at Gare du Nord or whatever. But then you've still got to go and catch a bloody taxi from there to your hotel, wherever you're staying. It's a flipping nightmare. 2 hours later, you're at your hotel. You've spent the same as you would if you just caught the bloody taxi from Charles de Gaulle to your hotel. My point being, public transport is cuck. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. It's really shit.
It is pretty cuck. I mean, it's well, look, I'll touch on it now as well while we're on that sort of part of the subject. But Paris was having their own fair amount of issues with fuel restrictions. Yeah. Fuel shortages, whatever. There was a fuel strike or something going on.
Total was on strike.
Yeah. So everybody was like scrambling for fuel. So there weren't as many taxis operating. So we stood quite a while, very often waiting for a taxi to become available to take us. So, yeah, I kind of agree. As nice as it is to have a public transport system, if it's not working, it's not working.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And you need it to work. When it's advertised, you kind of rely on it working. But anyway, that was a very small negative on the trip. Man, it's just nice to be. It feels like the whole COVID thing is just forgotten. Totally forgotten. Even last year when we went, you still needed that. We didn't have a digital travel COVID pass. We had that stupid cardboard thing that could be forged 1 million times over. And they wouldn't let you into restaurants and that. Well, they did, because the people just laughed it off. It was a stupid rule, and, people just laughed it off. And this year, nothing at all. There's no mention of it. You don't see signs about it. You just get on with the daily life.
Yeah.
Bustling, busy city. I mean, the taxi drivers were saying to us they've never seen Paris this busy at that time of the year. It
Really?
was just, walking around just packed. And it's beginning of October, it's not the July, August, September months. It's beginning of October, absolutely packed. And there's just this desire for people to travel. You can hear it at the restaurants, people talking, lots of tourists, everyone just so happy to be out. And so good to be part of that and part of that sort of travel experience. And I'm pretty sure it's changed your mindset a little bit, because already when you were there, you were saying, hey, look, I've got to get value. I've got to do this. And that's what traveling is all about. It starts like those synapses in the brain start firing, and you start to think, hey, but this is life, and you've got to go and enjoy it.
Yeah, so true, man. It really reignited that desire and that excitement for travel again. To see new places, just the sights, the smells, the everything, the whole buzz around it was really, really epic.
Yeah.
And I suppose, we were pretty damn lucky with the weather there as well. We had beautiful weather. And, yeah, man. I want to do more of it.
Want to do more of it. Yeah, some of our listeners and friends and that were there at the time. Andrew Evans come to mind, and try to get in touch with him, but it was just so busy. So Andrew, apologies, I couldn't get round to it. We actually went across there for work. Met our other colleagues and that there. And Ryan, we've spoken a lot on the podcast, spoken about aviation, but of course a lot of the time we've spoken about starting businesses and things on the side, hustles and all the rest. And at the end of the day, the reason we went down was to connect with our colleagues on that side of the world and to try and find some synergy between the operations in Europe and here in South Africa. And when you read that in the mail and you get told, listen, we want you to come across, you kind of think, well, what are you really going to achieve? Until you actually go and then you realize, well, this is absolutely necessary to do pretty often, particularly if you want your entire company to push in the same direction. And the reason I brought it up is a lot of the stuff we've encouraged has been guys starting things on their own. But quite a few of those guys, I'm not going to mention names because the one guy asked not, but a lot of those guys that started very small side hustles going back early 2020, back in those very difficult periods, a couple of those companies, and I'm very proud to say, they're actually hiring staff now.
That's awesome.
So the guys that were, I'm not saying they started the company because of us, that's not what I'm saying, but they were interested in what we had to say about starting up something on the side. And a lot of those guys are actually hiring people. And it's kind of a really nice thing for us to hear, because in a way you felt like you were sort of part of that movement a bit. So that's why I brought it up. Just a nice little story on the side. The guy asked, please don't mention his name, but actually hired 4 or 5 new staff in the last month with a side hustle, ex-pilot. Company started March, I think, 2020.
That's phenomenal.
Kind of cool, man.
That's really awesome. That's really, really well done and great to hear.
Yeah.
And something that I just realized as well is, when all this COVID crap started and airlines were shutting down everything, and all the businesses there was this big drive to have online meetings, and you kind of almost thought, well, death to business travel.
This is how it's going to be.
It's never going to happen again. And I never really understood it. I mean, I still thought, what's the big deal? If you want to do business, do it online. I mean, it's easier. You can do it in your charmies, whatever. Made sense to me. That was obviously because I'd never really traveled for business per se. I've gone overseas for sim training, blah, 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 but kind of different. This was a very, very unique and different experience for me. And I agree. It is absolutely, absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
I understand now why businesses have people traveling around to go and see their different branches. It's pivotal.
And what you're saying is quite true, because what's happened, a lot of people don't enjoy traveling. But you're finding the businesses themselves, they're the ones that are forcing the travel. They're saying, no, you must go see your clients face to face. You must go see your colleagues there and there. And you must, because it adds value to the business. But a lot of people don't enjoy the travel element. You know who they are. I mean, they take their S&T. I'm not just talking about pilots now, of course, but on the business side, they'd be much happier going across to the hotel, putting their bag down, saving as much as they can, seeing as little as possible, and go home. And that's really in the worst spirits of travel, because there's so much to learn. And
look, I think it's a bit of, you're losing out on
something major.
Yeah, man. You got to make the most of it, of every opportunity that comes your way. So we certainly did.
We had a cool, on the Friday when we left, we're trying to think what to do. It was a bit of a horrible rainy day. So we took a cab down to Le Bourget to go and see the Air and Space Museum. A lot of guys were posting pictures. You thought, no, we better go and see what it's all about.
Yeah.
So I did a bit of research on that Concorde. That was the first one that flew. So the prototype model there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first Concorde to fly is currently at the Museum of Air and Space in Le Bourget, France. Registration Foxtrot Whiskey Tango Sierra Sierra. Had its first hits in the skies 1969, 7 years before the type's introduction.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Legit, eh?
That for me was like a bucket list item. I'd never been close to a Concorde, so got to see that, loved it. That A380 that's parked there as well, if I'm not mistaken, was also the first A380 that flew. That was the one that flew around the world, tested all the runways.
Yes.
So, yeah. And then I've never been that up close to a rocket before either.
Yeah.
Man,
That's probably the closest you're going to get as well.
Exactly. You know, geez, no, that was an experience of note. Loved it. I'm so glad we did that.
Yeah, it was cool. So we killed a few hours and went there. It was really, really nice.
Yeah.
And we did make the comment, not quite the same as going to Rand Airport for that display. It's a serious display, and if you are in Paris and you're interested in aviation, Le Bourget is so close. It's a 15-minute drive from Charles de Gaulle, so well worth it. I think it's about 16 euros, no less. Eh?
Yeah, 16 euros.
16 euros to get in.
Which is not a lot of money. I mean, you go in and...
It's about 4 million ZAR, but it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a couple of beer tokens, but well worth the trip. And it's actually a must-do.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well worth it.
Yeah.
I've got an advisory for you.
Shoot.
You ready for it?
Always.
All right, it's a podcast advisory, but it's only for guys that are into Pink Floyd.
Oh, well, then you've got my attention.
Yeah. Roger Waters, one of the founders of Pink Floyd, he was on Rogan the other day.
Yeah.
I don't know if you listened to that episode.
I haven't yet.
Very different to how you might think that episode.
Really?
Yeah, he's quite an eccentric guy. He's a big activist. I'm sure he's not everyone's fan. You just assume he's another rock star.
Yeah.
But he's not. There's quite a lot behind that guy. But it was a really different Joe Rogan episode because Joe just sat back and basically just let this guy talk.
Really?
So it was quite interesting from that perspective, and certainly from a podcasting perspective, it was quite nice to see that even Joe Rogan, you know, he
took a back seat
took a back seat there, and it was pretty cool. So I listened to that, while my old man was snoring next to me on the economy Air France seat to Charles de Gaulle. I listened to that going down. It was good. And then the one just before it was the founder and co-editor of Rolling Stone magazine. The original Rolling Stone. The Rolling Stone now has got a little bit woke.
Yeah.
And it never used to be. So he was speaking to Joe on the earlier episode. So if you're into a bit of that era of rock and roll, which we certainly are, then it's well worth the listen.
100%. I'll make sure I grab those episodes and give them a listen because, huge fan of old school rock and roll.
Yeah. I'll leave the link in the show notes.
You know, on the advisory as well. Obviously, we've mentioned it more than once, but shot for the tip on the Apple AirTags.
Mm-hmm.
That was legit.
Yeah.
The best advisory one could use.
Yeah.
On the
and
travel.
it's an imperative.
Absolutely.
Did you see the articles going out about the fact that they are going to be banned on flights?
That was Lufthansa.
That's bullshit, though.
Yeah, they've just retracted. There was an article that came out this afternoon where they say, no, hang on. Apple AirTags are no longer banned on our Lufthansa flights.
Well, they had to retract it because it's a very, very low frequency Bluetooth device. That's not it's a very low frequency. It's got a 2025 little watch type battery on there. It's not lithium ion. And there's no reason why you can't have that zero danger. And I mean, your AirPods, they've got a tracking device in it. You can have anything in there. So the fact that Apple have a little dedicated device for it.
Yeah.
But what happened with that whole Lufthansa story was, now I follow this group on Facebook. It's quite funny. It's all about the people pissed off with Lufthansa. I've mentioned them before. But what's happening is people are rocking up at airports and they're walking to and I'm talking random airports, not even airports that the people were supposed to fly to in the first place.
Yeah.
So Germany, you fly into Munich and suddenly your bag ends up at Frankfurt, as an example. So people arrive there at Frankfurt and they say, my bag is here. And they're saying, no, sir, it's not. So yeah, it's behind that wall over there. No, there are no bags behind there. Now people are just losing it. They're saying, because they've waited 3 months for their bags.
Yeah.
So they're saying, stuff you, and they're opening this door and there's bags there. There's my bag. And they're taking the bag. But what's happening, of course, is all of these lost bags are in a system somewhere. Now you rock up and you take your bag. They can't find your bag on the system.
Because it hasn't been recorded that it's been taken out of the system.
Exactly.
And that's the last thing you want to do is to confuse a German.
or put the cart before the horse. You know?
Exactly.
So this is half the problem. So people have been, and it's driving them mad because people are saying, no, my AirTag says it's there.
Yeah.
But who are you going to trust? An airline who's lost your bag, or your AirTag saying that your bag is there behind that wall.
Yeah.
So this is happening all over the place. People are rocking up and literally just taking their bags. Why they don't get them earlier if they had an AirTag in it, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I've just replaced the batteries on my AirTag. So they're about 1.5 years old.
Yeah, they say that you should replace them every year.
Yeah.
So, just don't forget to do that, because
Yeah.
you might be blind.
Yeah.
I've got an AirTag. Well, maybe you don't if the
doesn't
battery
work.
goes flat.
Yeah, so it does warn you that you need to change the battery. But that was one of the better advisories, because it is an absolute imperative.
It's carried a lot of water, that.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, it's worth going to buy some more of those things. But I thought that story might come out where they were going to say, no, this is now banned. But fortunately they had to retract that one.
Yeah.
Don't leave them on the outside of your bag, particularly entering South Africa, because Apple got quite a nice sort of leather strap for it that goes on the outside.
I got one of those.
Yeah,
but I put mine in.
Yeah, but obviously if you do that, that is going to get zicked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see where the thief lives.
And you probably ain't gonna go there to go and fetch it anyway.
No.
So that's cool. A bit of a special mention to Jono Collins as well, mates of the podcast, flying at Cemair, hell of a good. Came up with a good idea for the show. Still need to talk to him about it, but thanks for the guys that do call in and they offer a bit of not advice, because the guys aren't trying to say, hey, do this. They're just saying, this is an idea. And Jono, quite a cool idea you and I have spoken about, and really would love to do it. The thing that's holding us back is just the time. We've only got 6 episodes, I think, left, including this one, for the end of season 4.
Yeah, we're moving really quickly towards the end of the year. We were talking about it the other day, and it's quite something when you realize you've only got, after this one, 5 episodes left, and then that's 222.
222
signing
done.
off.
Yeah, yours truly is off on a holiday at the beginning of December. So end of November, that's it for us for 222.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Season 4, 4 years.
It's nuts.
Yeah. Can you believe it?
Very cool, man.
Pretty cool, man.
But
other than that, next week.
Yeah, it's been real, pal. Thanks, man. Been great to get together on the show again, and have a good weekend.
I did miss the podcast.
Yeah. You lose a bit of momentum.
It's important that we keep doing this, Ryan.
Yeah.
I think that it's not so much what we do, I think, is quite widely accepted by a lot of people. A lot of people come up to you and they say, hey, love the show, and you don't even know that person's listening to the show. And I think that's the big thing I've got a kick out of. But from you and I on a personal level, I think it's helped us tremendously in our own confidence and our own belief in what we stand for. It's like, if you want to talk about something, you better know what you're talking about, because it's very difficult to talk about something you don't know what you're talking about. So it goes and forces you to have an opinion. And sometimes those opinions aren't always in line with maybe the listener's opinion. But I think most of the guys actually take it and say, yeah, but I understand how the guys have that opinion. So I think we do have the best listeners in the podcast world, because a lot of people that are scared sometimes to start a podcast, first thing people ask me, how do you handle the negativity? How do you handle someone saying something negative? I can count on my hand how many negative things in the last 3 years have been negative.
Almost never.
Never.
Fortunately.
Yeah, I mean, very, very rarely.
And if there is going to be something negative, well, you got to expect it and then just roll with it and not really give a shit.
But I do want to, you do, but I do want to have a shout out to the people that do listen to us and say, hey, thanks sometimes for giving us a bit of rope when we do get things wrong and seeing it as a bit of a joke. And thanks for staying out of the negative comments, because it does help and try and, certainly aids in getting you back here for the next week. So
definitely.
Have a lovely weekend, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye for now.
Ciao, ciao.
Remain this frequency, 28 right, echo, echo, cleared for takeoff. 28 right, echo, cleared for takeoff, runway heading, we have limit 3660. 204, 28 right, echo, echo, line up and wait. 28 right, echo, echo, line up and wait, now at 204. EC 4103, contact Chicago departure. Good morning. That was 553, uniform, so left heading 250 and all another turn. Left heading 250, guys, 553, uniform. Tower runway 3494 for now, stand November short of Echo Echo, and we'll work that out. You can expect the full length for departure. November short of Echo Echo, runway 3494. Skywest 553, uniform, turn left heading 220 and contact Chicago departure. Left heading 220, contact departure, Skywest 553, uniform. United 204, flighting 270, 28 right, Echo Echo, cleared for takeoff. 28 right, and Echo Echo, cleared for takeoff, heading 270, United 204. Scout 5169.